Hello YouTube. What will our world evolve into once 2040 arrives? We are closer to the year 2040 now than we are to 2010. Isn't that wild? While 2030 will be a transitional period where many technologies that are present will be in the introductory, experimental, and trial phases, 2040 will be the final destination on that journey. By that year, many new and unexpected technologies will have been firmly established in our lives. The world in 2040 will be a different planet compared to 2030. Like my last two videos, let's go ahead and explore what will happen in the world of sports. If you aren't interested in sports, jump to the time on the screen. We will have had several Olympics occur by 2040. The 2028 Summer Olympics will be dramatic as the Americans, athletes, and organizers alike will try to put on a great performance in the backdrop of what will sure to be a chaotic election season. I believe the United States will be first in the medal count in those Olympics. We will have to see how the global situation is to determine whether this Olympics will be boycotted. I predict the 2032 Brisbane Olympics in Australia will be more orderly than the 2028 Olympics. As to where the 2036 Olympics will be held, I believe it will be held in a city in the Middle East. The 2030 World Cup, I think, will be chaotic, with it being hosted on 2 continents between 6 countries, but I pray and hope that the World Cup goes as successful as possible, since it will be the 100th anniversary. The 2034 and the 2038 World Cups will be held probably somewhere in Asia, since that continent will go 2 straight World Cups without hosting the World Cup. By 2040, technology won't just be embedded in sports, it will be inseparable from it. We already talked about how robot umpires will be commonplace in Major League Baseball by 2030. However, I think all collegiate and professional sports will implement robotic officiating in some form by 2040. An outside panel of officials will be watching games from New York. This panel will be assisted by AI technology, quickly reviewing whether each play ran was properly officiated. If a mistake is detected, it will hopefully be corrected. If this concept works, perhaps the number of no calls on the field will decrease, such as the infamous no call on the defensive pass interference on the LA Rams during the 2019 NFC Championship game against the Saints. Ideally, the scenario will go something like this. Say a quarterback throws a long pass, but it isn't caught because of a missed DPI call. The AI technology will alert the New York panel to look into it quickly. They then confirm and buzz down to the on-field officials to reverse the no call before a new play is ran. Hopefully in the future, teams won't need to rely on coach or player-initiated challenges to ensure the proper call was made by a particular organization's officials. The fans will demand better with their viewership and dollars. Youth sports fans will be incredulous at the idea of human error in officiating determining the outcome of a game. Yup, back in our day, if a ref made a shit call, you had to suck it up and deal with it, no matter how much the evidence says that the ref was in the wrong and your team was in the right. We are moving towards a mechanically perfect game. It's just whether the humans involved will let sports advance in that direction. As a Chiefs and Jayhawks fan, I will most likely have to see the end of eras for each team regarding who is the head coach. I'm guessing Bill Self wins one more championship in 2031 and calls it quits. There will be plenty of celebration, recognition, and fanfare. He's been with the university for well over 25 years at this point, It's looking like Bill Self and the university will want to hire and promote from within once Bill Self retires. Danny Manning has come up as an interesting potential candidate for that role, as well as Jack Vaughn. The role of Kansas men's basketball coach is quite a daunting task with sky-high expectations. I mean, your two previous predecessors will be Roy Williams and Bill Self. However, I expect whoever decide on will be up for the task. Just like his time at Arrowhead, Andy Reid's time with the Chiefs will end in 2030. The Chiefs will see one era come to an end with the closure of Arrowhead and the departure of Reid. However, the franchise will have a promising future in Kansas, with quarterback Patrick Mahomes looking to have a solid career in his 30s. Athletes will look a bit different in 2040. I expect all sports at all levels to incorporate advertisements onto the uniforms like with European soccer and NASCAR. In the NFL, I also predict that the bigger and bulkier concussion caps will become standard in both the NFL and NCAA in order to reduce concussions and long-term head injuries. I don't think we will ever see a transition to flag football. The risk of playing the game has been understood for decades, and there is simply little to be done about it. Apparel manufacturers will push new shoes and leg pads claiming to reduce serious leg injuries. Unfortunately, I think sports on your local channels is going to continue to go by the wayside as companies try to push streaming deals. Sports will still have the human element front and center, but technology is going to have a large complementary role in officiating and administrating games. In the NBA, the league will be global more than ever before. International players will make up a large share of all NBA teams. It will be expected. Entire development pipelines in Africa, Asia, and Europe will rival or even surpass traditional American college routes. In the NFL, stadium experiences will be completely transformed. The new generation of stadiums built in the late 2020s and early 2030s will now feel normal. Fully immersive, digitally integrated environments with real-time stat overlays, personalized viewing experiences, and dynamic seating options. However, there will be a growing nostalgia movement among fans for the older, simpler game day experiences. Venues like Green Bay's Lambeau Field will only grow in value as other stadiums fall to make way for the new generation of stadiums. College athletics will be fully professionalized by 2040. NIL deals will have evolved into structured employment systems with salary tiers, contracts, and even trade-like transfer mechanisms. Major conferences will essentially function as minor leagues for professional sports. Colleges will be associated with teams instead of teams being associated with colleges. There will instead be a loose association between the two institutions with a revenue expense sharing partnership. Teams will be built based on how they can best market themselves to potential players. The requirements will be lax compared to nowadays. Instead of attending class and maintaining a GPA, players will just have to attend one or two classes with the partner institution in a show of cooperation and goodwill. Teams will be trading with the NBA and internationally. Will the NCAA even keep the 4 years of eligibility rule anymore? By 2040, I think the NCAA is going to rival North America's pro leagues. Whatever states aren't served by the aforementioned sports leagues, the NCAA will take over. I think amateur collegiate level sports are going to go by the wayside, especially with the non-athletic changes that universities are expected to endure in the next decade and a half. There has also been talk about one of the Big Four conferences leaving and becoming their own organization outside of the NCAA. I don't think the SEC will do it by themselves. It will definitely be in coordination with other large conferences. I envision something like the Big 100, basically the Big 4 plus Pac-12 expand to 20 teams each, meaning the 100 largest schools will leave the NCAA and form their own athletics organizations. Usually, big changes like this in college sports come about during the dreaded conference realignment season, which occurs when the various media rights organizations' contracts expire and need to be renegotiated. For the NCAA championships, those contracts expire in 2032, while the conferences have various deadlines themselves. For example, the Big 10 in 2030, Big 12 2031, SEC 2034, and ACC 2037. So if anyone does decide to make some major moves, it will probably be by the mid-2030s when any action does occur. While the future of the NCAA as an organization may be in doubt, there is little doubt that more technology will be integrated into the games we watch, and I think sports will be more popular than ever in 2040. That LED court concept we talked about earlier in the 2030 video, by 2040 it will be widespread in the NBA and NCAA. Not everywhere, but common enough that fans won't think twice about it. Courts and fields will double as entertainment platforms, blending sports with media in real time. The NBA and baseball will probably finish undergoing expansions in their leagues by 2030. Every North American sports league will have that mathematically perfect 32 teams. I think they will stop there since any more would mess with the playoff math and risk overextension. For the NBA, I think Las Vegas and Seattle will get new teams, while for the MLB, I think Las Vegas and Indianapolis will get teams. Sports in 2040 will be shaped by the integration of technology, past tradition, money, and global influence. I think a great current example of all of these different dynamics coming together is the Tokyo Toe, the kicker for the University of Hawaii, a Japanese national that only recently learned how to start kicking field goals through YouTube tutorials after he gained an interest in American football during a brief visit to the US. Once his skills improved, he then posted videos of himself kicking and making field goals. The videos caught the eye of a recruiting official, and now he finds himself kicking for a major college and probably collecting big NIL checks. Speaking of international pressure, I think every league is going to take part in international games, or if they already are, having international games, way more international games. Instead of an inaugural game at the start of the season in Ireland, NCAA football will feature international games 6 out of the 12 weeks of the regular season, and even some bowl games will be held internationally. I mean, will we even have bowl games anymore? Technology will be integrated more into sports as the governing bodies for each sport strive to achieve a mechanically perfect game in order to reduce officiating controversy. By 2040, teams will have cemented a legacy and crafted a 21st century identity, for better or for worse. While UCLA was a juggernaut during the 20th century, they have fallen out of championship contention for the most part this century. However, in 2040, the program I think people will be talking about will be UConn. We won't even mention the legendary women's basketball program. On the men's side, Dan Hurley and his crew have accomplished an impressive feat for any sports league. 2 championships in a 3 out of 4 year championship appearance stretch. In men's basketball, the closest ones to come close to achieving something similar were Villanova in 2016 and 2018, and Kentucky in 1996 and 1998, both going 2 out of 3 respectively. And something tells me that UConn won't be done at 2 championships. If you have seen my 2030 video, You will have seen I have picked other teams to win out the decade, and I stand by that. However, I expect UConn to win several more championships in the 2030s. Tom Izzo, legendary coach of the Michigan State Spartans, will lead the team to winning it all in 2030, all before he rides off into the sunset for retirement. I think Kelvin Sampson will do the same in 2032 with his Houston squad. Will Illinois' coach finally be able to taste championship glory before time runs out for him as well? Rick Pitino has hopped around the map over the decades and usually wins wherever he goes, whether it's Kentucky, Louisville, or St. John's. Will he be able to bring the Johnnies glory before he has to call it quits? It will be interesting to witness this generation of coaches retire, and the brand and persona that went along with them, and see what the next generation of coaches have to offer the basketball world in the 2030s. And above all, let's not forget, for all of sports in the world, whether it's professional or collegiate, all of this will be done in the grand pursuit of higher profits. Whether it's 1980, 2010, or 2040, the main goal of the ownership of all these sports organizations is to chase the almighty dollar. By 2040, the multipolar world will be firmly established. The United States will still be one of the most powerful countries on earth, but it will no longer operate as the singular dominating superpower force it once was. Power will be more distributed between the US, China, India, and several regional blocs. India, in particular, will likely emerge as one of the defining powers of the 21st century. Its population, economic growth, and strategic positioning will give it enormous influence globally. 1980 to 2025 will be viewed as China's era during the Asian century, while 2025 to 2050 will be viewed as India's era. China will remain powerful but will face internal demographic and economic pressures that limit its long-term trajectory. Meanwhile, Southeast Asia will become one of the most economically dynamic regions in the world, likely benefiting from the trade wars of the mid to late 2020s. The war in Ukraine will be long resolved by this point, but its impact will still shape global military strategy. The two belligerents will still be recovering more than a decade on from the conclusion of the war. Tensions will remain in the occupied regions. An uneasy peace will settle over a demilitarized zone in eastern and southern Ukraine. Drone warfare, autonomous systems, and AI-assisted logistics will be standard in every major military. Future conflicts will be faster, more technological, and less reliant on mass human development. As much as I'd like to predict world peace in 2040, I still think war will be very much part of the human experience in the future. Iran's long-term trajectory will likely have already shifted, whether through reform, instability, or transformation into a different political system. It will spend much of the 2030s recovering from war and decades of international isolation. It will be similar to its neighbors across the Persian Gulf, an autocratic socialist petroleum state constantly looking to sign new trade deals with international partners. After a violent, devastating conflict with the US and Israel, and the ensuing instability and internal conflict, Iran will settle on a government that shares more power between a democratic government, religious representatives, and the former monarchy. A government similar to the current government in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Middle East as a whole will still be strategically important, but less dominant in energy markets due to global transition towards alternative energy sources. Africa will become one of the most important geopolitical regions by 2040. Not just as a resource hub, but as a growing economic and demographic center. Foreign powers will continue competing for influence there, economically, politically, and militarily. Countries that take advantage of these foreign interests will grow economically. Those that don't will suffer the consequences of climate change, civil strife, and stagnation. Europe will still be dealing with internal divisions, but it will remain a major economic bloc. Nationalist movements may still exist, but most governments will have adapted to a more fragmented political landscape. Will there be any new countries by 2040? It's very possible we will have seen at least a few new nations emerge, though not without conflict or negotiation. Regions with long-standing independence movements will continue pushing for sovereignty. We covered most of the possibilities in the 2030 video. Either these countries achieve their recognition or they remain in a legal gray area. We really didn't cover the other possible outcome, which is consolidation. There have been several proposals to transform the European Union from a political and economic bloc into a nation-state. If that is going to be a possibility, the bloc has many challenges to contend with before undergoing such a daunting process. Will the bloc see increased consolidation? Will the line between nation-state and trade bloc become more blurred? Yes, I believe so. However, it won't come at the expense of national sovereignty by 2040. The European countries as we know them today will still be sovereign and independent. Africa has seen similar movements in East and West Africa. However, I think the same issues that keep the EU just a trade bloc and not a country will be the same issues that will keep these aspirations in these regions just that, aspirations. The world will possibly go in two directions. Either countries will consolidate after coming together on trade, military, and immigration agreements, moving towards a path of united global governance, for better or for worse, or most governments won't be able to handle all of the societal change that will occur and descend into anarchy, civil war, and balkanization. The prospects of a bright middle-class future out of reach, people will focus on survival and look inward instead of focusing on the betterment of the whole of society. People will fight for their class, religion, or ethnic groups. Most countries will then collapse and break apart because of the chaos and pressure. Ideally, the globe will move forward with the first option, and I believe most of the planet will move in that direction as well. Current trade blocs like Mercosur and ASEAN will have the same prominence in 2040 as the current EU does today. Environmental pressures will now be one of the primary drivers of geopolitical tension. Water scarcity, food supply instability, and climate migration will influence global alliances and conflicts just as much as ideology and oil once did. The globe will be more united in order to tackle the challenges of 2040. However, divisions will bubble up and cause conflict. This is the end of part 1 of my 2040 prediction series. Part 2 and 3 will be coming out soon. I hope you enjoyed the content, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And feel free to leave your own thoughts on what the year 2040 will be like.